So for about the last 25 years or so, CSX has not wanted to move anything with plain bearing, non-roller bearing axles under it because they can be problematic. So, you know, they don't want their railroad tied up. It makes sense, right? So in order to get the 2716 moved from here to Ravenna, we needed to put roller bearings under the tender. The tender has Buckeye trucks, which are really unique. A lot of big steam engines had them, but you know, most people have never seen them in modern day railroading because they have very kitschy uses. So the tender needed to get roller bearings. Well, it would have been extraordinarily problematic, really, really difficult, time consuming, expensive to do a roller bearing conversion here because the facilities just don't really exist to do that. So we found a set of Buckeye trucks with roller bearings underneath a flat car at a power company in northern Kentucky. Unbelievable find. So we managed to get those donated, get them trucked here for free, and then over the course of the last week, we've been converting the trucks, or adapting the trucks really, to go underneath our tender. Basically, so the original tender trucks sit a little bit higher and are of a slightly different design than the trucks that we had donated. So we had to raise the part of the truck frame that the tender sits on and create some projections that keep the car stable, because again, they're slightly different design. So that's what we've been doing. Several months ago, I drew up the design for all the components, all the steel components necessary to do this work. And then I worked with Jacob Owen. He put them into digital form, and I shopped around, found a steel supplier, sent the files to them, and they cut them out, picked them up, delivered them here. And in the last week or so, I've spent about, I don't know, 50 hours welding everything together. So thanks to Big Rivers Electric, the power company that owned the flat car that these trucks came out from under in northern Kentucky, we were able to save probably something in the neighborhood of about 2.5 months worth of work in the field, and something in the neighborhood of $80,000 to $90,000. The cost to do this conversion work here, to put roller bearings underneath the 2716's tender, is at least 4 to 5 times what it will cost us once it's in Ravenna. So it's been a huge, huge savings.
What we've had to do is over the course of the past few months, we've done a lot of work on those as far as getting them cleaned, checking the springs, checking the brake rigging, replacing brake shoes, and so on and so forth. But it's it all came together basically when we had the trucks originally sitting over on the ties when they actually came to rail. And then to be able to do the swap and being able to pull 16s trucks out and then put in the Big Rivers, I guess that's where the reality came into play, where this was actually becoming a bigger project than what we initially had taken on. KRN was instrumental in being able to allow us to be able to complete the job that you see behind us, from the use of the crane and then the use of the locomotives, and then having to deal with their personnel. It allowed us to work basically flawless for the past 5 days. So when we initially started the operation, the tender had to be moved a couple different times to get into position where it's sitting now. But then to actually have to have their crane operator to be able to take time off and then for him to come in was instrumental, because as you could see, there were several moves, not only just with the new replacement trucks, but with 16 trucks having to come back then out from underneath the tender and then get moved out of the way. That was instrumental to have all those people in place.
For a crane that's large enough, it would probably cost us about $400 to $500 an hour to have a crane sitting here doing the work that we've done. So basically 2 full days, it probably would have cost us about $16,000. So KRM really helped us out with that. So as a thank you, this excursion we have put together for when the 2716 leaves, first time ever, a steam locomotive going to restoration, going to a different facility, is going to have an excursion contest behind it for people to ride behind to be part of the move. And so since KRM helped us so much, as a thank you to them, we are splitting all of the net proceeds of this excursion behind the 2716 and the Clinchfield 800, which will help 152 return to steam. We've gone through, we've changed the oil and all the bearings, we've inspected all the bearings, we've had all the bearing covers off. The only thing that really remains to have the locomotive ready to go over CSX is to change out the brake valves that are on the engine with some freshly rebuilt ones. The whole system's already been tested and does work, but we're going to change out the brake valves and reconnect the brake rigging with the temporary trucks on the tender. And once that's done and the tender is connected to the locomotive, it's ready to roll. For CSX to be moving this locomotive over their railroad in today's world, in today's railroading world, would be about like the DOT allowing a jumbo jet to land on an interstate. It's just something that doesn't happen. You know, it's a really big deal. It's unique, and while, you know, the general public might think, oh well, you know, geez, it's another train going down the railroad. Yes, it is, but it's not something they need to do. Their business is to be in business and to make money. So the fact that they're willing to help with a preservation effort like this is huge. It's something they're choosing to do because they want to help a community that exists because the community used to serve them. So now they're wanting to do something to serve the community on the back end.